The Secret. How many of you have seen that video called The Secrets? Okay. That sure created a sensation, didn't it? You know, the interesting thing about it is it really enlightened a lot of people to using The Secret. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But we're going to talk about the real secret. Now, the secret is based on this thing that everybody's talking about, the law of attraction. Now, the law of attraction, I went to wikipedia.org, and Wikipedia tells me that the law of attraction is all about you get what you think about, your thoughts determine your destiny. You get what you think about, your thoughts determine your destiny. The law of attraction, what makes it work for you? Focus. The law of attraction, the thing that really makes it work, is focus. Once again, you get what you think about, your thoughts determine your destiny. It's actually an interesting case of the solution is the problem. Is it really the law of attraction that makes it work? Now, I'm making you think this morning. I know this is puzzling. This is good. Because this is something you're going to have to be thinking about all weekend and forevermore now. It's not so much the law of attraction. It's the law of subtraction that's going to make the real secret. The law of subtraction tells us we need to reduce clutter. We need to reduce options. We need to reduce distractions. And we need to reduce our excuses. And you can see that I'm revealing what to you? A code. Okay, so we're going to reduce clutter, options, distractions, and excuses. These are barriers. Now, here's the situation you have. You've got you and your goal, and you got your barriers in the middle, and the barriers are what? C-O-D-E. Clutter, options, distractions, and excuses. Good. So, what happens if we get rid of those barriers? Things can improve, yes? Now, here's something interesting when I was putting this together. I remembered that, when you have a magnet and metal, what happens with those? They attract, right? Okay. Now, what do you know about magnets and lead? You ever try to put a magnet and lead together? What happens? Nothing, okay? Okay, so I start thinking, if we have the magnet and metal, and I put lead between the two, what happens? It was an interesting question, I thought, too. So I called my rocket science brother, David, who is a rocket science kind of guy, over here at NASA, the Space Center. And I said, here's something for your buddies to research and tell me. So he emailed me back and sent me to two websites, okay? And through those websites, I discovered that by putting lead between magnet and metal has zero effect. Lead, I can't remember that there's a scientific word for it, but the lead has the same shielding power as air. In other words, this magnet and the metal, even if you put lead together, it's still going to happen. It's just like there was air there. It has a value of 1, just like air does. But I know that you can disrupt magnetic fields. But that was the other interesting thing that I learned in putting this together, is that magnetic fields always find the other pole. The attraction is always there. You cannot deny it. It's a physical law that the magnetic poles find one another. You can put barriers between, it will shield that situation, but the magnetic force will go over, around, underneath, any which way, but it will connect. Now the power of which it can bring together is diminished by the shield. Isn't that fascinating? So even though there's barriers between you and your goal, the attraction is still there. It's just those barriers are acting as a shield, slowing down your process. Have you ever felt this way? Yeah. Okay. Now, the thing that I am fascinated with is the laws of nature that are in place that always work the same way, and how I can learn from those and apply it in human relations. Because I believe that all laws of nature apply in every situation. And it's just that we're not aware, or we don't open our eyes up to how that we can apply these things. So, if we get those shields out of the way, then we can have things happen. So if we subtract the barriers, now you and your goal can attract to one another. So you are attracted to your goal, and your goal is attracted to you. Now, how can you use this in marketing of your business? You have prospects out there who are attracted to you already, but there's barriers in the way, right? You've got to help your prospects become your customers by working the code. You've got to help people reduce their clutter. You've got to help people reduce their what? Options. You've got to help people reduce their distractions. You've got to help people reduce excuses. Now, can you see if you're the person who helps people reduce those things, that you become the obvious choice to do business with? How many of you have too much clutter in your life? How many of you have too many options? How many of you got too many distractions? How many of you are full of too many excuses? Okay, we all got our hands up. If somebody can come along to help you reduce all four of those things, it's like, where have you been all my life? I've been searching for this answer. Now, in your business, you can be that person, that business to a lot of people if you will help them do that. I think this is one of the biggest problems I see in people, is they've got too much clutter, too many options, too many distractions, and too many excuses. And that keeps them from getting where they want to go. So we get rid of those barriers. You can be attracted to those people, they can be attracted to you. So that's the law of subtraction. But is it enough? Now, let's talk about the law of traction. Law of traction, you need to increase your contacts. Now, what's traction? Let me back up and talk about that for a second. Do you remember Star Trek, that TV show? What was the thing when they tried to, the little shuttle thing was out there and they needed to get it back to the spaceship real quick? They had the tractor beam, right? Now, what did that thing do? It went out and was zing and captured it and did the magic mojo on this little spaceship thing, and it pulled it to itself, right? It attracted it to it, a tractor beam, and brought it back home to the ship. A tractor. Why do we call a tractor a tractor? Think about the wheels on the back end of that thing. They're big wheels. What kind of treads they got on? Big, heavy, deep treads. You can do things with a tractor that you absolutely cannot do with a pickup truck, even a big pickup truck. That's because they provide us traction. For us to develop traction, we need to have more contacts, increase our observation skills. In other words, open your eyes and see what's going on around you. Develop dependable behavior. Don't be so erratic. Be focused on things. Let people know that they can depend on your behavior. And develop your own expert status. That's how you're going to develop traction in your life and your business. Is that enough? Let's talk about the law of action now. Law of action states, and here we go with our code words again. C is for commitment. You've got to decide to do something. You've got to decide to stand for something. You've got to take positions. You've got to let the world know that you're going to do things and you're committed to the concept, the idea, or the activity. O, observe success. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. The greatest way to shortcut your way to success is to model others, to emulate. D, for do it now. I've talked about this before. I learned this years ago from a book called Success with a Positive Mental Attitude by W. Clement Stone. He was kind of a cohort of Napoleon Hill. And in that chapter, he talks about a 3-word phrase that has always helped him get things done, and it was do it now. Can you do everything right now? No. But when something is placed before you that needs to be done, can you make a decision right then, either to do it now or to schedule when you will do it now? You can always do that. The problem is a situation arises in front of us, and most people will not do it now, and they won't do it later either. They just don't do it. And it's so much easier if you ingrain this into you of do it now. Do something with that situation right now. You get things done, and you get things accomplished, and you move on to the next thing, instead of all the CODEs piling up in front of you. And E, experiment and adjust, otherwise known as test, test, test. This is the best way for you to learn things. It's the best way for you to gain experience. It's the best way for you to find out the truth of what works. Now, I get a lot of my learning from the Bible. And one of the things that I learned, and it's a little acronym that was staring me in the Bible pages, and it didn't happen until a few years ago that I saw that there was a great acronym to always help me remember that A stands for ask, S stands for seek, and K stands for knock. And you've heard, ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, and knock and the door will be opened unto you. Now, the interesting thing about all 3 of those words, they're all action verbs. You've got to actually take steps towards something and make things happen. So the real secret is what? By taking action, you get traction from your subtraction to your attraction. The real secret that they don't want you to know is action. And I'm serious about that. They don't want you to know. Because the less action that you really take, the more susceptible you are to sales pitches that promise you the hope of the goal without your own action. Does that make sense? Action is the magic ingredient, and where does that come from? It comes from you. Now, I believe in giving people hope. Hope is what gets you through those tough times when nothing seems to be going right. And hope is the only thing you've got. And I've had times in my life where that has been the situation. And I've had to look for any little ray of sunshine and focus on that and not even think about the negatives that were going on around me. And keep focusing on that light and working and scratching and crawling my way to that light of opportunity. And it kept getting brighter and opening up bigger, and I could move forward. Okay? You've got to focus forward. But the real secret is taking that action. That's all I have to say about this. But I would love to open it up for discussion, because I know there's a lot of people that have been influenced by that video and The Secret, and there's controversy going back and forth. You can see that I believe in both sides of it. But I believe in presenting the whole picture rather than just the hope side, or saying that, well, you can wish all you want to, nothing's ever going to happen. But I think it's a blend of all those things. But I think the biggest problem that people have is you got so many clutters and options and distractions and excuses that it's shielding you from your rightful attraction of what your goals are. Who's got a microphone?
Mark, I have a question. In this video, I've seen, for example, that went through the very rough times, and I know that at the moment now you're a very successful marketer, one of the most influential in the world. But it would be very beneficial for all of us to know what tough situations you've been through. So could you share some of your difficult situations? Thank you.
No. In a short word, no. I mean, there's been financial situations, there's family situations, there's health situations, but I'm not one to tell my rags to riches kind of stories. I don't like those kind of stories. I never talk about it. If you ever hear me talking at a conference, I never talk about that stuff, and I'm not going to start now. Sorry. I will just tell you that, there's been times in my life where I'm not homeless. I always had, if I had a really tough time, I always had family that I could go to. But I've also had family say, hey, you're not going to live with us, forever, or we're not going to support you forever. It's like you need to get out and get busy. So there was always, look, you take action, you set yourself a goal, and we'll help out. But I always had the strength to know that, okay, there's the support system. And we all need that. That's what families and real friends are for. But if you abuse that relationship, that's not a good thing. And for family or friends to help you too much in supporting you and nurturing you at a tough time, that's not good for you either. You need to have somebody who will, and my brother David, he's 16 years older. He's been the guy that in my tough times I could go to him and talk with him, and he would kind of help me set my course. Because when you're in a tough time, you're emotionally distraught. You can't think straight, and you need somebody to say, "Okay, where is your opportunity at this point in time?" Because what do we know? In every adversity, what? Yeah, there's a seed of equivalent or greater benefit, and I believe that in all my heart. Write down this book title and go read it, because this was I was going to say 2x4 on my forehead, but I'm going to say it's like a 4x6 or an 8x8. It really slugged me. It's called The Secret of the Vine. Secret of the Vine, V-I-N-E, by Bruce, I think it's Wilkinson. It's just a short little book. Anybody, Amazon or something like that. Secret of the Vine. And I'll tell you just a little bit about it. It is the story in the Bible of how the guy, what do they call the vineyard guy? Whoever takes care of vines, whatever they call that guy. How they prune the vines so that it would yield more grape. What a story. And if you've ever felt like you being pruned, and sometimes they prune you a little bit, and if you don't respond, what do? They prune you a lot. Okay? And that's when you feel like, my gosh, my life is like upside down, inside out, and I can't see up. Okay, have you ever been there? Therein lies your greatest opportunity for growth. Man, is that a hard period, though. But you've got to know that that's what's going on. And you've got to have that faith that that's what's going on, that there is something bigger and better to your purpose. And I've been through that. There's been like 4 or 5 times through my life where, that cycles. At this stage of the game, finally some light bulbs came on. That I'm tired of being pruned. Like I'm really trying to see the stuff coming now. Because I've been through that cycle of thinking, wow, everything is really going good. I'm on top of the world. And it's like, man, when you start thinking that way, you hear that little sound. Here come the pruning shears. So humility is a good thing, folks. Humility is a good thing. If you want to write that one down, stay humble and appreciative of everything you got, and continually work to put out as much good as you possibly can, help as many people as you possibly can, without being selfish about it. It's difficult to do that. You'll be rewarded and taken care of. Eli?
Yeah, I think the list in the COD is a good one, but it occurs to me that there's maybe one barrier that hasn't been discussed that's probably pretty big with a lot of people, and I think that's fear. I think a lot of people don't act because of either fear of failure or maybe even fear of success or just fear of making a mistake or whatever. And maybe it's worth, talking a little bit about that and how that fits in.
Yeah.
What you might be able to do to overcome that.
Yeah, I don't know how that fits in my acronym, but it does fit in the concept. It kind of relates to back what I say about school. And it's my belief, when you're about 2, 3, and 4 years old, it's not only my belief, it's scientific evidence that that's the greatest learning period of a human's life. The kid, they just sponge up everything. They're not afraid to try things. They are the ultimate tester. They love trying things out. If it doesn't work, so what? They try something else, right? They don't take no for an answer, have you noticed? They just try a different way to phrase it to get you to do whatever they want you to do. Now, when does the change happen? When we go to school. We go from being the tester to the tested. And at this time, we go to school and we get tested and we get graded. It's not that, no, it didn't work, try again. It's, no, you got that wrong. You get a B, C, D, or F, which is a real shame. So all of you who went through school successfully, college, postgraduate work, all that kind of stuff, I'm sorry, but they really screwed you up. And you need to unlearn a lot of that stuff so that you can get back to that state to where you don't have that fear of trying things. It's not a mistake. It's something that you tested, that the result that you were looking for wasn't that result. However, what did Edison tell us? I know 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. There's value in that. And especially if you can, I learned this at an early age too, I always knew that I wanted to model and emulate success, but I also looked at things that didn't work. I also noticed that some people, weren't successful. Well, what can I learn from them? How not to do it, which is the same as, okay, if these 1,000 ways are not to make the light bulb, I don't have to try those 1,000 ways. I can just start where we have a light bulb and leverage off of that success. Okay, and that's the lesson there, is to leverage off successes, learn from somebody else's mistakes. That's the cheapest education. That's why books and training and education are so valuable, that you can, in a few short years of your life, attain knowledge about any body of knowledge, that has been accumulated over thousands and thousands of years. This is a marvel to me. And the printed word, and since then, other technologies have made that possible. And that truly is magical to me, that we don't have to rely from one person telling the next person through generations. That one person that can actually document the knowledge and experience and spread it worldwide quickly. And of course, because of the internet, it can be done in minutes now. Failure is not the end. It's just learning how not to do it so you can try something else. Failure is when you give up. If you want to write anything down out of that conversation, failure is when you give up. And that's one thing that, an attribute that was instilled in me very young, was I could do anything I set my mind to. And I can remember those words being told to me when I was 4 years old. Mark, you can do anything you set your mind to. If you look at those words, Mark, you can do. Do is what kind of a word? Action word. Anything you set your what to. Right, now what does the word set mean? Commit, right? A definite purpose with commitment. Now, if that's the case, could you also do that if I tell you the same thing? You can do anything you set your mind to. And the answer is absolutely yes, if you will do all the words in that phrase. Get rid of the clutter, the options, the distractions, and the excuses. That will help. John, you got a hand up?
It just occurred to me that really one of the things, the attractor is the thought of what you want, and then the action is the steps that overcome the barriers.
Mm-hmm.
And as you reduce those barriers, the attractor becomes more powerful and creates circumstances that cause you to materialize what you want faster.
My son John, who hears me talk about this stuff all the time, he was here the other night. He had to go to school and get programmed wrong. But see, he's been brought up to know that, hey, don't let school get in the way of your education. Yeah. Any other comments about this?
All I was going to say was, for me, I was doing nothing. I was absolutely acting on nothing. I thought I was acting on something, but I was acting on a gazillion things all at one time and not acting on one thing focused. And until I narrowed everything down and I said, I'm not going to look at 2 or 3 things. I mean, I would even narrow it down from like 100, and I would say, okay, I'm going to look at 5 things. It didn't work. When I narrowed it to 3 things, didn't work. I had to narrow it to one thing, only one thing. This is just for me. I'm not speaking for anybody else. But when I narrowed it to one thing, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it just so happened that what I did was what I was supposed to be doing all along, and when it worked, it was like super action. And it was exactly like you're talking about. It was like everything came to me, and it just matched. Mm-hmm. So for me, I had to say no to a lot of things to say yes, I was going to act on this one thing. That's all I wanted to say.
Right, okay. One of the issues that I hear people talk about a lot, and the advice you get is, well, you can only work on one thing at a time. That's a bunch of crap. You need to focus on one thing at a time. That's absolutely true. But I have a lot of things going on. The issue that I have, and I have a lot of things going on with various people, most of the time, not always, when something needs to get done, I do it fairly quickly or very quickly and get my portion done, and I turn around and say, okay, tag, you're it. And then I have to wait for the other person to do what needs to be done next. If I was just working on one thing at a time, sometimes I could wait 2 or 3 weeks before I would take any other action toward any other thing. So that's why I have multiple projects going on, to where I can get a lot accomplished working with other people on various projects, and then on my own things, I can focus on them in the interim. Whether or not that's going to work for you, that's a style kind of a situation. It's also training yourself to be focused on the project at hand that's before you at that moment. There is a talent that you develop in that way. When you have a task to do, all the other clutter, options, distractions, and excuses go away so that you can focus and accomplish whatever the task is at hand at that moment. That you absolutely have to be able to do. And the best way to do that is in time blocks, so that you allot yourself certain periods of time to do things and accomplish things. Because what you'll tend to find out is whatever amount of time that you budget towards something, it always gets done right at the deadline, no matter if you give yourself a week or a month to do it. So if it's always going to get done right before the deadline, you might as well set shorter deadlines. Right? Think about it. I mean, am I right on this? You can give yourself a week to do something, or you can give yourself a month to do something. Guess which week out of that month it's going to get done? The last week. For most of us, it's not going to be the first 3 weeks. Because if you really applied yourself in the first 3 weeks, how long would it take you to do the project? A week.
Contradicts something you said earlier, that which is obvious and that which is not so obvious. You don't tell your success story. You don't have to. Your success story is in front of you. It's the stars of the people.
Well,
The people who keep coming back to you are your success story. And that's when you talk to people about why they're here, it's your honesty and integrity and your organization. And I think that the honesty part of it is what you're talking about there. The difficult thing for us much of the time is being honest with us about our code, about dealing with those factors, and having an accurate self-assessment, and then being honest with ourselves about implementing these things we're talking about now. But I appreciate your honesty and integrity, and I also appreciate the people in the room. That's your success story.
Thank you very much, Val. Val brings up a really good point of taking an accurate inventory of yourself. And I guess I may have picked this up from Napoleon Hill, or maybe just from my upbringing. Well, Shakespeare said it, didn't he? To thy own self be true. In other words, don't lie to yourself. We're always taught to be truthful for other people, but do not lie to yourself either. Actually see how you are. Don't make excuses. If you come up short, you came up short. By making excuses, you don't get any further along, you just delay the process. You're creating your own shields from the things that you're trying to attract. How silly is that? The process that you want to be doing is taking down the barriers. And too many people put up barriers between themselves and those things that they want to attract and be attracted to. The thing to take away from this little talk this morning is the real secret was what? Action. And is it so much attraction, or you'll get more attraction if you use subtraction and develop traction by taking action. Okay? Now, all of those words have a root. Action, subtraction, and traction have the root of action. Rather fascinating.